I never imagined that the man I suffered with for 10 long years, the man I once called my husband, would be the one to throw me into the cold, blue ocean that evening. The sound of the ocean waves still echoes in my ears. The ship lights glowed softly on the water, painting everything in gold and red reflections. I was standing by the railing, dressed in a wine-colored gown that matched Samuel's wine suit. He looked handsome, too handsome, the kind of handsome that hides danger behind a smile. We were on a cruise ship off the coast of Lagos. He had told me, "Miracle, my love, you deserve this. After all the years you stood by me when I had nothing." Those words made my heart melt. I smiled, unaware that this trip wasn't a celebration, it was a trap. The ocean breeze brushed against my face as I waited for the attendants to bring our food and wine. Samuel stood beside me, his arm resting lazily on the railing. The moon hung full in the sky, lighting up the rippling water. It was peaceful, too peaceful, until I heard a soft, familiar voice behind me. "End her life, Samuel, so we can spend the rest of our lives together." My body froze. I turned around slowly, and there she was, Debby, his mistress. She was standing behind us, her golden dress sparkling like fire under the moonlight. Her hair was braided in neat twists, her red lips curved in a confident smirk. She looked like everything a man could fall for, and everything that could destroy him. "Samuel," I whispered, my voice trembling. "What is she doing here?" He didn't answer. His eyes darted away from mine. His breathing grew heavy, his face pale. Debby moved closer, placed her hand on his shoulder, and whispered again, "Do it now. Or you'll lose me forever." I stepped backward, my heart pounding like a drum. "Samuel, what's going on?" I asked again, this time louder. My voice cracked. The attendants were still far away, no one could hear me over the sound of the ocean. And then he looked at me. Not with love, not with pity, but with something cold, something dead. Before I could step back farther, his foot hit my chest hard. I screamed. The world turned upside down as I fell backward into the dark sea. Cold water slammed into my face. I gasped, swallowing salt and fear. The ship lights grew smaller and smaller above me as I sank. I tried to scream his name, but the ocean swallowed my voice. That was the moment I realized, Samuel had chosen her over me. He had chosen death for me, and a new life with his mistress. But what neither of them knew was that Miracle did not die that night. Something happened deep in that ocean, something that would change my life forever. And 4 years later, the same man who pushed me into the sea came crawling back, begging for my forgiveness. But let me tell you how it all began. When I first met Samuel, he was just a simple man with big dreams and an empty pocket. I still remember that day clearly, the day I chose love over comfort. We met in Ajagunle, Lagos. I was selling bread and tea by the roadside before sunrise. He walked up to my stall, sweating, carrying a worn-out file under his arm. He smiled and said, "Madam, 1 loaf and 2 sachets of water." His voice was soft, humble, and hopeful. From that morning, he kept coming back, not for the bread, but for me. A few months later, he told me, "Miracle, I may not be rich now, but I swear I will make you proud." I laughed and told him, "Samuel, I don't need you to be rich. I just need you to love me the way I'll love you." We got married in a small church with borrowed chairs and plastic flowers. Our first home was a tiny single-room apartment at Ajagunle, with a leaking roof and a wooden door that creaked like an old woman's bones. Still, those were the happiest days of my life. We had nothing, but we had each other. Years rolled by, and we struggled together. I woke up every morning at 4 a.m. to fry puff-puff by the roadside, while Samuel roamed the streets of Lagos searching for a job. There were nights we went to bed hungry, holding hands and whispering prayers. There were times he cried, ashamed of his failures, and I would hold him tight and say, "God will not forget us, my husband." One day, this same Lagos will know your name. And one day, my words came true. Samuel came home one evening, his eyes wide with joy. Miracle, he shouted, almost breaking the door. I got the job. I'm now an engineer with an oil company in Victoria Island. I dropped the bowl I was washing. My hands trembled as I looked at him. You're serious? He nodded, tears filling his eyes. We made it, my wife. We finally made it. That night, we danced in our small room. I cooked our favorite jollof rice with dry fish and plantain. We didn't have much, but it tasted like victory. I could see the fire of hope burning bright in his eyes again. The first few months were pure happiness. He would come home with groceries, gifts, and sometimes flowers. He even opened a small boutique for me. I remember telling myself, this is what it feels like when God answers prayers. But happiness has a strange way of hiding danger. And sometimes, blessings come carrying curses in disguise. It started slowly. Samuel began working late. At first, I didn't complain. I believed he was working hard to impress his new bosses. But soon, he started smelling of a strange perfume, a woman's perfume, one that didn't belong to me. One evening, I asked softly, Samuel, why do you come home so late these days? He looked at me sharply and said, do you think money falls from heaven, Miracle? You want a better life but don't want me to work for it. His tone was harsh. The man who once cried in my arms now spoke to me like a stranger. Then came the first lie. He said he was going on a business trip to Port Harcourt. But when I called one of his colleagues, he told me there was no such trip. My heart broke that night. 2 weeks later, he returned, smelling of the same perfume, stronger this time, and carrying a gold bracelet that I knew wasn't for me. I started praying harder, believing it was temptation. But deep down, my spirit was restless. And then I met her. It was at a corporate dinner the oil company hosted. Samuel invited me, but from the moment we walked in, I noticed how uncomfortable he looked having me there. The room was filled with rich people dressed in fine fabrics. I wore my best Ankara dress and tied my scarf proudly. But then my eyes met hers. Debby. She was tall, light-skinned, and beautiful in a dangerous way. Her gold dress shimmered as she laughed with Samuel's manager. She walked up to us, stretching her hand toward him before pretending to notice me. Oh, you must be Miracle, she said with a sly smile. Samuel has told me so much about you. Something about her tone didn't sound right. Her nails were painted red, her lips glowed in gold gloss, and her eyes held secrets I couldn't understand. That night, when we got home, Samuel was silent. He didn't touch his food, didn't say a word. From that day, everything changed. Weeks passed. He started sleeping on the couch. He stopped answering my calls. His laughter became rare, his smile became fake. And every time I tried to talk to him, he would say, please, Miracle, don't start your drama. But I wasn't imagining it. He was slipping away from me, into the arms of Debby. I once followed him secretly after work. My hands were shaking as I hid behind a tree near his office. I saw them, Samuel and Debby, stepping into her car together. She leaned close and kissed him before they drove away. I fell to my knees that moment. The man I built my life with was now building dreams with someone else. I cried the whole night. My pillow was soaked with tears. But I couldn't tell anyone, not even my mother, because I didn't want people to laugh at me. I kept hoping that he would come back to his senses. But I was wrong. One Saturday morning, Samuel suddenly walked up to me with a smile I hadn't seen in months. Miracle, he said, pack your things. We're going on a cruise tomorrow. Just you and me. My heart leaped with joy. Maybe he had finally realized his mistakes. Maybe this was his way of making things right. I cooked his favorite food that night, egusi soup and pounded yam, and I sang while packing my clothes. I even prayed, thanking God for restoring my marriage. I didn't know that I was packing for my own death. The next day, we stood on the dock, both wearing matching wine-colored suits. The ship glowed like a palace on water. As we boarded, Samuel held my hand gently. He looked calm, too calm. And when the ship began to move, I noticed his eyes weren't on me. They were on someone else. Far across the deck, standing under the golden lights, was Debby, in her long golden gown, smiling coldly at him. I didn't understand what was going on. But I was about to find out, in the most painful way imaginable. The evening of the cruise started like a dream I didn't know would turn into my nightmare. The ship shimmered under the Lagos moonlight like a floating palace. Soft music filled the air, and the scent of fried shrimp and roasted peppered chicken drifted across the deck. Everyone looked so happy, couples laughing, glasses clinking, and waves gently kissing the sides of the ship. I stood beside Samuel, our hands lightly touching. We wore our matching wine-colored suits. Mine was a fitted gown with soft glitter along the edges, and his was a sharp, shiny tuxedo with a gold pin on the lapel. From afar, we looked perfect, like the couple everyone envied. But inside me, I felt a strange emptiness. Samuel's smile was forced, his eyes cold and distant. He kept checking his phone, pretending to reply to work messages. I didn't say anything. I just kept hoping that this trip would heal the gap between us. When we reached the upper deck, the lights dimmed slightly, and a waiter in a white shirt approached with a tray. "Sir, your wine and dinner will be served soon," he said. Samuel nodded, not even looking at him. The ocean wind was strong, brushing against my braided hair. I turned toward the dark water, whispering a silent prayer, "God, please restore my marriage. I don't want to lose him." And then I heard the sound that made my heart freeze, the sound of heels clicking against the wooden deck behind me. I turned slowly. She was standing there. Debby. Her gold dress sparkled like fire under the moonlight. The slit on the side revealed her long legs, and her curly wig danced with the wind. Her makeup glowed, gold eyeshadow, red lipstick, and diamond earrings that caught every ray of light. She looked like royalty. But to me, she looked like death. "Samuel," she called softly, her voice calm but commanding. My husband turned around, not shocked, not nervous, just silent. "Debby?" I said, confused. "What is she doing here?" No answer. Samuel's eyes darted between us. His lips moved, but no words came out. Debby stepped closer, resting one manicured hand on his shoulder. "Didn't you tell her?" she said with a mocking smile. My chest tightened. "Tell me what?" I asked, my voice shaking. She chuckled, a cold, low laugh. "Oh, miracle, poor you. Still thinking your husband loves you?" My stomach turned. "Stop it," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Stop saying nonsense." But she didn't stop. She whispered something into Samuel's ear, words I couldn't hear, then looked at me and said, "You've been a burden to him for years. But tonight, that ends." "Samuel, what's she talking about?" I asked, stepping closer to him. He wouldn't look at me. His jaw was tight, his eyes watery. I saw something break inside him, guilt, fear, and weakness all mixed together. Debby's voice cut through the wind like a knife. "End her life, Samuel. Do it now, so we can spend the rest of our lives together." The world went silent. The music faded in my ears. Even the waves seemed to pause. I gasped. "Samuel, please tell me this is not what I think it is." He turned his face away. Tears filled my eyes. I reached for his hand. "After everything I've done for you? After 10 years of suffering and praying together? You want to throw me away because of her?" Debby stepped closer, smiling like a snake. He doesn't need you anymore. You're just a shadow of his past. I'm his future now. She turned to him again and said in a low tone, do it now, or I'll walk away forever. I could see the conflict in his eyes. His body trembled. For a moment, I thought he would fight for me. I thought the man I loved was still in there somewhere. But then, his face hardened. He looked at me, for the last time, and said, I'm sorry, Miracle. Before I could move, his foot hit my stomach with all his strength. The force threw me backward. I screamed his name as my body flipped over the railing. The world spun. My heart pounded so loud it drowned out the sound of the ocean. Then, splash. The cold, violent sea swallowed me whole. Salt water filled my nose and mouth. My eyes burned. The ship lights above looked like fading stars as I sank deeper. My gown pulled me down like chains. I tried to swim, but my body was weak. In that moment, I thought it was the end. My life flashed before my eyes, our wedding day, our struggles, our laughter, our nights of prayer. Everything played in slow motion. I whispered under the water, God, please, don't let me die this way. Then, out of nowhere, I felt something grab me. A rough hand. Strong. Pulling me upward through the freezing waves. My eyes opened faintly. I saw a blurry figure, a man, shouting in a language I didn't understand. A fisherman. He dragged me into a small wooden boat. I coughed out salt water, gasping for air, trembling from the cold. The last thing I heard before I blacked out was the man's voice saying, You are safe, madam, you are safe now. When I woke up the next morning, I was lying on a mat inside a small fishing hut. The sound of the sea was still there, but the ship was gone. Samuel was gone. My old life was gone. And that was the day Miracle died, but the woman who replaced her was stronger, colder, and ready to make the world see that I was not a woman to be thrown away. I swore that day, one day, he would see me again. Not as the wife he betrayed, but as the woman he could never have back. When I opened my eyes again, the smell of salt and smoke filled my nose. I was lying on a woven mat, covered in a thick wool blanket that smelled of the sea. My whole body ached. My throat was dry. For a few seconds, I didn't know where I was. Then the memories hit me, the ship, the gold dress, Samuel's cold eyes, the kick, the fall, the water. I sat up quickly, gasping. My body trembled. Tears filled my eyes. It wasn't a dream, I whispered. He really did it. Samuel really threw me into the ocean. A soft voice came from the corner. Take it easy, madam. You need to rest. I turned and saw a man, dark-skinned, muscular, with sea-tangled hair and kind eyes. He was wearing an old blue shirt and shorts torn at the edges. He walked toward me slowly, holding a bowl of warm pepper soup. My name is Cunnel, he said. I found you floating on the water last night. I thought you were dead, but when I pulled you into my canoe, you coughed. God saved you. Tears rolled down my cheeks. Thank you, I whispered. My voice cracked. He smiled gently. You're safe here. Eat something. You need strength. I tried to lift the spoon, but my hands were shaking. He sat beside me, helping me hold it steady. I sipped the soup, spicy, smoky, and hot enough to make me cry harder. Each tear that fell wasn't just from pain, it was from heartbreak. I stayed in that fisherman's hut for days, barely speaking. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Samuel's face, his eyes just before he kicked me. How could a man I suffered with for 10 years choose to kill me for another woman? Cunnel would come every morning with food, roasted plantain, fish, or pap. He never asked questions, just smiled and said, God doesn't forget good people. One afternoon, as the sun painted the ocean gold, he sat beside me outside the hut. The waves crashed softly against the shore. "Madam Miracle," he said quietly, "who did this to you?" I looked at him, tears glistening in my eyes. "Someone I loved more than myself." He nodded slowly, his jaw tightening. "Then you must live. You must not let him believe you died. Let your life be your revenge." Those words struck deep into my heart. From that moment, I decided, I would not die a victim. I would rise again. Months passed. My body healed, and my spirit began to grow stronger. Cunnel introduced me to his mother, Mama Folake, a kind old woman with tribal marks and wisdom in her eyes. She took me in like her own daughter. "Forget your pain, my child," she said one evening as she braided my hair. "The sea did not take you because your story is not finished. Your tears will water your blessings." I helped them sell fish in the local market. The people in the small coastal village called me Auntie Miracle without knowing my story. Slowly, I began to smile again. One day, Cunnel brought an idea. "You can cook well," he said. "Let's open a small restaurant by the beach. Travelers always pass here." It was crazy, I had no money, no plan, but Cunnel believed in me. He sold 2 of his fishing nets, and we built a small wooden hut with palm leaves for shade. We called it Ocean Miracle Kitchen. The first day we opened, I cooked pepper soup, jollof rice, and fried fish. By evening, everything was sold out. People came from nearby towns, saying they had never tasted food like mine. For the first time in months, I felt alive again. Cunnel stood beside me that night, smiling proudly. "See? You're not just a survivor. You're a miracle." His words warmed my heart. Something inside me began to heal. 4 years later. Time passed quickly. 4 years. In those years, I transformed, from a broken woman to a confident, successful one. I expanded the restaurant, hired workers, and built a bigger house by the sea. People traveled long distances to eat at Ocean Miracle Kitchen. I had become a name. A brand. A story of hope and strength. But I never forgot Samuel. Sometimes, when the night breeze carried the scent of salt water, I would look at the ocean and whisper, "You tried to bury me here, Samuel, but this same sea gave me life." Then one rainy evening, as I was closing the restaurant, something strange happened. A car stopped by the roadside, a black SUV covered in mud. The door opened slowly. And the moment I saw the man who stepped out, my heart nearly stopped. It was Samuel. He looked nothing like the man I once knew. His face was thinner, his beard rough, his clothes wrinkled. The shine in his eyes was gone. He walked toward me slowly, his hands shaking. "Miracle," he said softly, his voice weak and broken. I froze. My body trembled, but not from fear, from disbelief. The man who threw me into the ocean was standing in front of me, alive but destroyed. "What are you doing here?" I asked coldly. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. "I've been searching for you for years. I thought you were dead. Please, forgive me." I laughed bitterly. "Forgive you?" My voice cracked. "After you tried to end my life? After you chose her over me?" He fell to his knees in the mud. "Debby left me, Miracle. She took everything. My money, my house, my car, everything. I lost my job. I'm nothing now. Please. I need you back." The rain poured heavily, soaking us both. I looked down at him, the man who once thought he was too powerful to need me, now begging at my feet. Inside, my heart burned with both anger and pity. But what I said next, left him speechless. Next morning, the sunlight poured gently through the hotel blinds, but I couldn't feel its warmth. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling fan as it spun slowly above me. My heart was tired, not just from pain, but from confusion. I had survived betrayal, but I didn't know why it happened. Then, something strange occurred. Around noon, my hotel phone rang. When I answered, a woman's voice whispered, "Miracle. I'm sorry for everything." My hands froze. "Who is this?" I asked. The voice trembled. "It's Debby." I jumped up from the bed. My whole body shook. The same woman who took my husband, the same woman who watched me drown, was now calling me. "What do you want from me?" I shouted. Debby's voice broke. "I didn't know Samuel would go that far. I thought it was just a plan to scare you away. I never wanted him to kill you." I could hear her crying softly. But her tears didn't move me, not after what I'd been through. "Where are you?" I asked, my voice cold. "Lagos," she replied. "Please, Miracle, we need to meet. There's something you should know about Samuel." I didn't know what to believe. But something in her voice told me she was hiding a bigger secret. My heart raced. I agreed to meet her, but not without caution. That evening, I wore a black hoodie and sunglasses, disguising myself. I met Debby at a quiet restaurant by the beach. She arrived in a gold dress, the same color she wore on the ship. For a moment, it felt like I was back there, reliving that horror. Debby looked pale and shaken. She reached for my hand, but I pulled it away. "Say what you came to say," I demanded. She whispered, "Samuel is not who you think he is. The $600 million wasn't the reason he wanted you gone. It's deeper than that. He owes people, dangerous people." I felt the ground shift beneath me. My chest tightened as she continued, "They wanted your money, Miracle. Samuel promised them everything. He told them you'd never survive the cruise." The truth hit me like thunder. My husband didn't just betray me for greed, he sold my life to save his own. Before I could ask another question, Debby's eyes widened in fear. A black SUV screeched to a stop outside the restaurant. Two men in black suits stepped out, scanning the area. Debby grabbed my wrist and whispered, "Run." They followed me here. My heart pounded as we bolted out the back door, barefoot, into the dark alley. The sound of footsteps echoed behind us. That was the moment I realized, my survival on the ship wasn't luck. It was destiny warning me that the real war was just beginning. Debby's hand gripped mine tightly as we ran through the narrow alleys. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear anything else. The sound of car tires screeching behind us made my legs move faster. I didn't even know where we were going, only that we had to survive. We burst out onto a quiet street near the ocean. The salty air hit my face, mixed with fear and sweat. Debby's gold dress shimmered faintly in the moonlight as she gasped for breath. "They're not going to stop, Miracle," she said, trembling. "Samuel owes them millions. They think you still have the access to his offshore accounts." My mind spun. Access? I closed every joint account after the wedding. "What are you talking about?" Debby shook her head. "Samuel forged new ones, in your name. You're the key to unlocking that money. That's why they want you alive, for now." I froze. All this time, while I trusted Samuel, he had used my name, my signature, my reputation, to build his lies. We ducked into an abandoned warehouse by the dock, hiding behind old wooden crates. My legs trembled as I sat down. Debby lit a small flashlight. Her eyes were swollen with guilt. "I swear, I never knew he planned to kill you," she whispered. "He told me you'd leave quietly, that you'd agreed to divorce." I stared at her, feeling my chest burn with a mix of rage and pity. "And you believed him? You watched him throw me overboard, Debby." Tears rolled down her face. "He threatened my family. I was trapped too, Miracle." For a long moment, silence filled the cold air. Then I said quietly, we can't hide forever. We need to make this right. Debby looked confused. What do you mean? I mean, I said, standing up, we expose Samuel. Every lie. Every secret. We used an old laptop she had stolen from Samuel's apartment. Through trembling fingers, she logged into his hidden folders. My eyes widened, documents, wire transfers, offshore accounts, all under my name. He had been laundering money through shell companies, making it look like I was behind everything. He planned to frame you, Debby whispered, horrified. If you died on that ship, they'd think you took the money and disappeared. Before I could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed again. Someone had found us. Debby panicked. They're here, she whispered. I grabbed the laptop and stuffed it into my bag. We slipped out through a broken side door, running toward the dock. But as we reached the water's edge, a familiar voice stopped us. Well, my miracle survived again, Samuel said, stepping out from the shadows in his white wine-colored suit, a gun glinting in his hand. His smile was cold. Debby gasped, stepping back. I could barely breathe. He tilted his head and said softly, you should have stayed dead, Miracle. Now you're making things complicated. I felt the wind whip through my hair as the waves crashed violently behind me. The same sea that almost claimed my life now waited below, dark, deep, and hungry. But this time, I wasn't the helpless wife. I had come back from death. And Samuel was about to see what resurrection really looked like. The moonlight shimmered on the water, throwing ghostly reflections over the dock. Samuel's gun glinted like a serpent's fang as he stepped closer, his polished shoes echoing against the wet wood. His wine-colored suit, once a symbol of his pride, now made him look like a man drenched in blood and betrayal. Samuel, I said softly, my voice trembling but steady. After everything, this is who you've become. He smirked, tilting his head. You talk like you're innocent, Miracle. Do you have any idea how hard I worked to reach this point? I gave you 10 years of my life. 10 years. I shouted, my anger breaking through my fear. 10 years that I cooked, cleaned, prayed, and starved beside you while you chased empty dreams. 10 years that I believed in you, until your greed replaced your heart. His hand trembled slightly on the gun. You wouldn't understand. Debby gave me what you couldn't, peace. Luxury. No complaints. Debby, standing a few steps behind me, whispered, Samuel, stop this. You don't need to do this anymore. He turned sharply toward her. Shut up, Debby. You're just as guilty. You told me to end her life, remember? Debby flinched as tears filled her eyes. I regret that every day. The tension in the air felt heavy enough to crush us all. The sound of the waves grew louder, almost as if the ocean itself was waiting for what would happen next. I slowly took a step forward. Samuel, listen to me. The police already know everything. The offshore accounts, the fraud, the fake documents, it's all there. If you pull that trigger, you'll never leave this dock alive. His eyes widened in disbelief. You're bluffing. I'm not, I said, lifting the small device in my hand, a voice recorder I had hidden in my pocket. I recorded your confession the moment you started talking. For a second, his confidence shattered. His breathing quickened. Give it to me, he barked, stepping closer. I stepped back slowly until my heel touched the edge of the dock. One wrong move and I'd fall into the Black Sea again. Samuel, please, Debby begged, moving between us. Don't make another mistake. He shoved her aside so hard that she stumbled and fell to her knees. That single action, the cruelty of it, broke whatever pity I had left for him. You never loved anyone but yourself, I said. Not me, not Debby, not even God. That's why everything fell apart. His jaw tightened. He raised the gun. Then let's end this, Miracle. If I can't have peace, no one will. In that instant, Debby lunged toward him, grabbing his arm. The gun fired, the deafening crack echoed across the dock as sparks flew. I screamed as Samuel lost his balance and staggered backward. His hand flailed in the air, reaching for something, anything, but there was nothing to hold on to. The next moment, his body plunged into the dark, furious water below. "Samuel!" Debby cried out, rushing to the edge. But all we saw were the waves swallowing him whole. His wine-colored suit disappeared beneath the surface, leaving only silence and foam. For a long moment, I stood frozen. My heart pounded. My mind was blank. Finally, I whispered, "It's over." Debby turned to me, sobbing. "I never meant for it to end this way, Miracle. I'm sorry. I truly am." I looked at her, the woman who had once stolen my husband, now broken and shaking in front of me. "Debby," I said softly, "you were used just like I was. But now, we both have a choice, to heal or to drown in the past." She nodded weakly, tears streaming down her face. I took one last look at the dark ocean, the same sea that had taken my pain once before. Tonight, it had taken the man who caused it. I turned and walked away, the wind brushing through my braided hair, the city lights flickering in the distance. But as I stepped onto the empty street, something inside me whispered, "This isn't truly over." Because sometimes, even when the storm ends, the waves keep coming.